Augusta here from the new face of finance. Today, I'm here to run you through 5 Black entrepreneur lessons that I've learned during the Covid-19 crisis. A lot of this applies specifically to Black entrepreneurs operating specifically in the United Kingdom, but maybe in other parts of the world as well, such as USA or Africa. Lesson number 1, the importance of Black ownership. In recent weeks, we have had a lot of news reports, especially coming out of the United States, where race relations have really come to a head. The recent deaths of Armand Aubrey, who was a 25-year-old jogger who was shot down by a racist white father and his son. Breonna Taylor, 26-year-old, the police broke into her house and shot her dead while she was asleep. Sean Reed, a 21-year-old who was, joyriding and being a bit silly, and he shouldn't have behaved in that way, but he didn't have to lose his life because of it. And most recently, and most notoriously, the clearly unlawful killing of George Floyd, a 46-year-old man who was very present in his community for trying to stop youths getting into gang warfare. So this culminated with the a high number of Black and ethnic minority deaths during the COVID-19 crisis. Lots of Blacks and Asians have been on the front line in most of the developed countries and have been given their support as nurses, as essential or key workers. Now they're essential key, whereas before they were deemed to be low-skilled, low-income workers. They have been the majority on the front line, and they have also been the majority, or we have also been the majority that have been killed as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. In the United Kingdom, we had the case of the death of Transport for London, TfL worker, Belly Mujinga, a 47-year-old woman of African origin, who in Victoria Station was spat at by somebody who was apparently carrying the COVID-19. Unable to leave her post, eventually developed respiratory problems and died as a result. She leaves behind an 11-year-old child. On top of all of that, another important report came to the limelight when it was revealed that successful YouTuber Mika Stauffer, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, a lady who adopted a Southeast Asian child called Huxley, then rehomed him several months ago, was silent about it, and part of this rehousing was because he was autistic, so it was reported. And so she effectively used this child, built up her following, did sponsored videos with several companies where she was using the child for promotion, talked about the adoption system in Asia, and then when it suited her or when life got too hard, gave the child away. Absolutely disgusting behavior. And again, highlights the problem that we have with this white savior aesthetic that is not helping us. So as you can see, there have been several challenges that have been highlighted in the press recently with being a Black person or ethnic minority in the developed world. How does this link to the importance of Black ownership? There is so much injustice that we need to talk about, and we need to protest about, and we need to be public about. And a lot of people cannot speak or be public about this because their jobs potentially are on the line if they do. So if you're there talking about Black empowerment, and you're there talking about being fair, and about the fairness of ethnic minorities, and your boss, people that you work with, can access your social media and so on, and you're there promoting something that they might find unsavory. They might not identify themselves as racist, but they're not, massively into, over politicizing, and I have a fear that you might be treated differently, which is not completely out of, the realms of impossibility. I've been through it. It's completely feasible that, a person at work, you might say something they don't like, and all of a sudden, a rod is made for your back, and before you know it, you're being managed out. So, if there's more black ownership, there'd be more in the way of assets, and that would be less of a threat. And it would mean that when things like this happen and when there are injustices, people who are in quite influential positions, in quite great and in dominant jobs, can stand forward and can take a stand without fear of recrimination and without fear of losing their jobs and positions. The fear of employment marginalisation is a barrier to progress. We'll talk about this in a bit more detail during the course of the video. The second lesson that I want to discuss today is that the digital age is upon us. Now, with the emergence, it's been around for quite a long time, Black Twitter, that's not to say that there isn't lots of Black and ethnic minority presenters and influencers on social media. Sure there is. But I want to speak to those who maybe aren't, personal blogging and who aren't doing super conventional things. I'm talking about people who, as entrepreneurs, want to grow their businesses and are quietly doing their thing in the background. I think it's important for us to start using our platform so that people are aware of our existence. So it's really important that if you're not embracing social media, that you do, and you leverage it to grow your particular business. So let me talk to you in more detail about this. As a mortgage advisor, now I have several conversations with people all the time about their requirements. And absolutely, as an advisor, you have to have these individual conversations with people because every situation is different. The advice that is applicable to any individual is going to be impacted by their personal circumstances. However, there is a lot of information that is generic. And also, I watch a lot of other videos and a lot of other people giving advice about property market. And I think a lot of this information is not that accurate. And these people are just giving random advice without actually being in position day in, day out on understanding how property works. And then they're giving advice that isn't accurate. And so I see a personal responsibility to come and just say it how it is, to talk about it from a practical perspective, as opposed to just a theoretical one for the purposes of just getting, likes and follows or whatever else. People won't find you if they don't know that you don't exist. And prior to lockdown, I'd spent a lot of time speaking at property events, but that's all going to change right now. It's harder to do those kinds of things because of the social distancing restrictions. We've all realized as well that, it's very possible to have property meets digitally, as opposed to having to trek for hours to get to a certain place. And that implication is far reaching. And it means that, there's a great opportunity now to leverage a platform to be able to speak to people and give them advice, especially the generic advice that a lot of people should be aware of. And then if you want to get more specific, then there's the opportunity to at least contact an advisor that you resonate with and be able to speak in more detail about your personal circumstances, having had a baseline understanding of the options that are available to you. And not every advisor is made equally. It's important to work with somebody, especially when, you're either making your first purchase or you're moving a new direction in your property journey, that you find an advisor who you can resonate with, who is clear, who is concise, who understands the market, who's going to give you practical advice that you can use. Someone who's going to keep it real. And I think it's the same thing with, dentists. I think it's the same thing with lawyers. And obviously law is like a really wide scope. So, if you're looking for a particular barrister to take your case, you want to get a sense of who that person is. If you're a solicitor, whether it's employment law, criminal law, family law, if there are more of us on social media talking about what we do, how we've helped, then it makes it easier to market to a wider group of people. And it also means that it's easier for you to be found. So I think it's really important for Black entrepreneurs to really use the platform of social media to expose themselves, people to be able to find you more easily and understand who you are and your skill base. This new digital age and embracing social media. Lesson number 3 I've learned through this crisis is that people really need to kind of get into property. Now, bear with me as I explain this. Not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is going to own tons and tons of property and have them out on rent or short let or whatever strategy that you're interested in. Not everybody is a property person. But one of the reasons why I became a mortgage advisor in the first place was because I decided after like 10 years of working in financial services that I wanted to be able to help people add value and build wealth. And although I had these amazing roles that were in these investment banks, I felt incredibly pigeonholed. People would come to me and they'd ask advice about, how do I invest in an ISA, or, how can I get on the property ladder? And I couldn't answer any of these questions because all I knew about was settling equity derivative swaps. And so when I decided to move into financial advisory, obviously I'm a fully qualified financial advisor. The reason why I have focused on property and property finance specialism is because I find it's one of the easiest ways to start building wealth, or it's usually people's first point of call when they're building wealth. When you start saving and you're 25, it's really hard to save for your 65th birthday. And that's essentially what a pension is. It's you saving for 40, 50 years down the line. And as important as it is, it's much easier to have a tangible goal, such as I'm going to own a property in 5, 6 years. And so I think that properties is one of the best ways to start building your wealth. And that's kind of, why I've stayed in this place as a gateway to building wealth. Now, people will come to me and they'll buy their first homes. Great. They've got their family home. They'll stay in that for a while. Maybe they'll add value to it. They'll sell it. They'll go find another property. And all the while they're out there, they're earning more money in their jobs. They're doing better because they purchased their first home. It's now easier to understand the power and importance of saving. And then they're able to start investing in investments, in their ISAs, and they're able to start using their pension funds. And then you have some people who start off, they buy their first home and they're like, oh, that was quite exciting. And maybe they add some value and then they sell it and they make a bit of a profit, or maybe they don't even sell it. They refinance that property, remortgage it, raise some money, go buy another property. And now they've got 2 properties and they get addicted to property. And so I think you have to decide whether you're going to be a property person or not a property person. But irrelevant of that, I think that you should make it a priority to have some kind of wealth in property. If you look through the rich list of people all around the world, you will see that the vast majority of them, if not all of them, have got some kind of investment in property. That's no accident. So I do think that an important part of building wealth, an important part of building business wealth, is having some kind of property wealth. And recently, I've been getting lots of calls from people who basically asking me, when's a great time? When's good to get into property? Or, I'm thinking about getting into property next year. Look, even if you're thinking about getting into property next year, you need to start laying the groundwork and the foundations and doing your research for it now. There's so many things you need to understand, like what can you afford? Based on what you can afford, can you buy your dream home, or do you need a starter home? And if you need a starter home, where is that going to be? If, for example, you work in London and you're only earning £50,000 a year, a lender's only going to lend you about 4.5 times your income. And so, you're looking top end, like, 225, a mortgage of around about 225,000. And then you have to put a deposit on top of that. So, your first property purchase is going to be circa £250,000. And there is not much you can buy in London for that amount. So with that information in place, you've got to think, okay, well, where can I purchase? And you've got to do the research, and you've got to understand the market, your options, you've got to find a decent broker, a decent lawyer. And so there's a lot of work, sort of preparation. If there's any problems on your credit report, you need to fix those problems. If you've got some debt in the background, you probably need to clear that debt. And so I think that now is a great time, if I'm honest, to try and get on a property ladder, or at least to start doing your research, because as a result of this crisis, there will probably be a drop in property prices. So it's a great time to keep your eye on the market. But even outside of that drop, if you are planning to purchase next year, you might as well start preparing today. You might as well start having conversations about what you need to do to put yourself in a good position to be able to purchase property. And so, yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, yes, if you're getting started in business, that's going to be your focus for now. But I do think it's something that you need to put on your list, a to-do list, right? I need to purchase some kind of property, whether you're purchasing that property because you want to live in it and that's going to be your home, whether you're purchasing that property from an investment perspective. I think it's something you'll find is probably going to pay dividends, because, on average, homeowners tend to be open to lower rates of interest when they're trying to borrow money. So it's definitely worth considering as an entrepreneur. Hey, even if you're not that personally interested in owning property, doing so, your future self will thank you. Your children will thank you. Even your parents. The act of owning that asset will potentially have impacts for even your parents. And I know this, being in that same position. I'm in property business with both my husband and my mother, and my mum's really excited about what we've been able to achieve. Obviously, some of it has been really daunting, but we've been able to increase her wealth and our family wealth as a result of the actions that we've taken in property. So, if there's something that you definitely want to know more about, then, let me know, put it in the comments, get in touch with me. Business lesson number 4. Support Black businesses. I'm not saying that you shouldn't spend your money anywhere except Black businesses. I'm definitely not saying that. It's not practical. And in fact, I don't think it's right either. What I do believe is that when you can, you should. So say, for example, when it comes to building wealth, if you can, actively choose a Black mortgage advisor or financial advisor, because they will understand your position and your needs, your cultural and your specific needs, better than somebody who's not in the culture. Skill is very important, and obviously work with somebody who, if you can, you've been referred to. Then you know that if someone has dealt with them and you trust that person's expertise, when they are referring you to this individual, you trust what they're providing, the information that they're giving you, and the results will speak as well. Definitely try and go by recommendation or referral. I believe exactly the same thing with accountants. If you have a great Black accountant, support that accounting business. That accountant might not, he or she might employ other people that are not ethnic minorities. That doesn't matter. It's a Black owned business. I believe the same thing with people in the cosmetics industry. If you're doing some kind of facial or physical amendment to your body, be it laser or, you're undergoing some kind of chemical peel, a Black lady or Black man is going to understand your skin and temperament more than somebody who's not of the same origin. I think the same thing with dentists. I think the same with private doctors. Obviously, if you're using NHS, it's not as easy. But if you're going for a private doctor, they're going to understand the Black physiology a lot more than somebody who isn't Black. Same with therapists. They will understand the long-term cultural implications of the trauma or the issues that you come to speak to them about. And then even things down to food. So for example, in North London, a new shop opened called Cinnamon Leaf, and they specialize in like vegan produce. They will sell ingredients, they will sell produce that will, that you'll be able to use to make the kinds of foods that you've grown up and that you're used to and that you like. Food that's full of flavoring and food that is in line with, your cultural heritage. So, as I say, I'm not saying here to only buy black, don't go to any other businesses. As I say, it's just not practical. But I do think that when you can buy black, you should buy black. And I think that would definitely, that supports the point that I was making in number one, the importance of black ownership. It is hard to maintain, to create and maintain black ownership if we're not buying black. And the way that things are going to change is if more and more people have black wealth in the UK, in the USA and around the world. That's the only way. There's more wealth, then there's more influence, and that's how things get changed. And it's better for you as a business person. So if you're buying black, you're able to build relationships with other entrepreneurs in your wider community. And as we've seen amongst the Asians, as we've seen amongst the Jews, when we can act en masse, when we can act together, when we can build a wealth network, it's easier to do more, to grow more, to build more. And that's the kind of situation that we need to be in, where we can benefit from cultural community nepotism in growing our wealth and in establishing our wealth as a community. Black people bring so much swag to everything. Clothes, hair, business. So, the thing is, so many cultures appropriate what we bring to the table. The way that I'm wearing my hair right now, and I'm talking about entrepreneurial, I'm talking about business, there would have been a time when I couldn't be taken seriously because my hair was in twists and looked like this. But those times are changing. And those times are changing as a result of so many people who are doing amazing work, particularly on social media. This particular video has been influenced by a few people who I've been watching over the last few weeks and who I just really like the way that they have just presented themselves and presented these ideas and brought these important topics that are important to the black community to the forefront. Namely, in the United Kingdom, Kelechi Okafor, who has a weekly podcast called, I think it's Say My Mind. Definitely should check that out. And also, I recently saw a video by BBC Extra DJ called David Sideman Whiteley. That's not an exclusive list. In the United States, you've got young rapper Chika, and you've got public speakers such as Erica Lachey. As I say, that doesn't even cover the surface. There's so many people, but this video isn't about other people. I'm just saying that I'm influenced by what they're doing, and in turn, I'm influencing other people to take actions and steps that I know will help to benefit the community long term. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's been a long time coming, and that momentum shouldn't be stopped. It shouldn't be broken down. We need to continue it if we're ever going to create the kind of environment where black thrives and where other communities aren't looking at us with some kind of suspicion or looking down on blackness. And I'll be honest, I think there's black people that look down on blackness. And that's a problem. That needs to change. So you doing you and you being amazing is helping everybody. Even black business, retail, clothes, shoes, hair, where you can, where you believe the product or the service is excellent, where you believe in the person behind the brand, the story. I'm not saying buy black for the sake of it. It has to be great. I really believe in black excellence. But when you see that present, I think that you should put your pound there or put your dollar there. I think that's important. As I say, this is something that's already really normal in Africa. I have family members who are very successful hair product manufacturers. They do well. The richest man in Africa and Nigeria, Dangote, he's an entrepreneur, sells sugar, sells cement. Black business is out there thriving. So it's not that it can't happen. It's just that I feel like we need to make a conscious effort to talk about this and actually take those steps. Lesson number 5 for Black entrepreneurs that I have picked up during this COVID crisis. It is so important to do your research and tap into the resources that are available to you. I'm going to elaborate on this. I guess my main message here is understanding the system that you operate in. And that is through doing your research. And in fact, again, I think this links to several of the points that I've already made. If you're buying Black and if you are in support of Black ownership, then you are going to surround yourself with people just like you who understand this system, its intricacies, how it operates, and will be able to give you the advice to grow, to expand, and to do better. So, for example, one of the challenges when it comes to entrepreneurialism is finance. Where do you start? Now, having been in entrepreneurialism a really long time, if you've got access to cash from friends or family and you don't have to borrow the money, then obviously, or from savings, that's kind of the best way to start. You don't really want to be in debt to people. But I do think that there is a discipline that debt brings that people shouldn't really take for granted. And so I think that sometimes when you borrow money, because you know that you need to pay that money back, you're more determined to use that money to get things started and going quicker. So this COVID-19 crisis has come into play, and the government has released a number of schemes that they want to use to support UK businesses. And a lot of these schemes haven't really applied to me. They've been hard to apply for. The criteria has been super stringent. The banks don't really want to lend because it's still their liability, and therefore they thoroughly underwrite you. And so if you've got kind of credit blips, or if you're not turning over a sufficient amount, or your business is having problems prior to March 2019, then you might not be available for some of those schemes. Now, again, as I say, people might be watching this video from all over the world, but I guess I'm specifically talking to Black entrepreneurs and Black business in the United Kingdom, particularly with this final point that I'm bringing forward. However, I was able to tap into one of these schemes, and one of these schemes was the bounce back loan, which you might have heard about, you might have seen several videos about. Fortunate enough, because I've been in property a really long time and I have a network of property entrepreneurs, I heard about this bounce back loan. I mean, it came out in the government, but they're never that clear about a lot of their schemes and, whether it's going to work or not. But I watched a few videos and realized that actually there was some really great benefits to this bounce back loan. So the maximum that they will be able to lend you is £50,000, which will represent roughly a quarter of your turnover from the previous year. So if your business turned over £200,000, you can borrow up to £50,000. Obviously, if it turned over £250,000 or £300,000, you still keep capped at £50,000. But still, that's amazing. The government fully underwrites this, so banks find it easy to give that money out because it's not really their liability. Of course, you are responsible for paying that debt back, but there's no interest to pay until month 13, which means that if you really got your skates on, you could really get ahead with those funds and be in a position to start paying back that loan in 13 months. If you're serious about business, 12 months is enough time to be profitable enough to start paying that debt back. And so I was able to tap into this across 2 of my 3 businesses. And in fact, I'm still working on the 3rd business right now. And the application was like so simple. It was really straightforward. And I was able to borrow that money and use it to leverage and grow and pivot and adjust some of my businesses. Now, I won't see the results for a few months' time, still working on them right now. But I guess the benefit is that because I've been in business for some time, I know the actions that are necessary that are taken. I know what needs to happen in order to generate a profit. And so I guess what I'm saying to you is if you are in business, whether you're in business as a partnership or a limited company or even as a sole trader, you should definitely look into the possibility of the bounce back loan, especially while it's still available before they withdraw it, because it's a great opportunity to use it to expand your business and help to do all the things that I talked about, develop Black ownership, and so on. So, you know, one of the banks I applied to, because I have a business account with them, was Barclays. We applied for, I didn't apply for a massive amount, didn't need a massive amount, because don't forget, it is a debt, you've got to pay it back. But within 36 hours, the funds were in the account. And as I say, we're using that to now take the business into another direction. And in the future, I'll make a video about how we use that bounce back loan and what the implication was. So to summarize, the five key lessons that I've learned during this COVID-19 crisis are: number one, Black ownership is important for our progress, for so many different reasons. Second one, the digital age is upon us and we need to embrace it, whether you're a relatively small business, but people need to know you exist so that they can tap into your resources successfully. 3, you really need to consider getting into property. Even if it's only one, you need to put yourself in a position to own something. 4, it's important to support excellent Black businesses. And 5, you need to understand the system that you're in and tap into the resources to expand and develop your position. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, comment. If you think that I can be of assistance to you in your journey as an entrepreneur, someone who's interested in property, I definitely welcome hearing from you. Please leave any comments or questions or anything you'd like me to make further videos about. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Have a successful, fruitful week, month ahead. And I've been Augusta from the New Face of Finance. See you next time.